HOA president broke into my ranch and attacked my dog. I fired in self-defense. Have you ever wondered how far someone would go to protect their home, their family, and their loyal companion? On a quiet evening in the sprawling Texas countryside, my world turned upside down when Karen Whitlock, the iron-fisted HOA president, crossed a line that no one could have predicted. What started as a petty dispute over a fence ended in a gunshot that echoed through the hills, leaving a community divided and a question hanging in the air: was it justice or was it vengeance? My name is Jake Harlan, and my ranch, a 50-acre haven of rolling fields and oak trees, was my sanctuary. I'd built a life there with my wife, Sarah, and our German shepherd, Rusty, who was more than a pet, was family. The trouble began when Karen, the newly elected HOA president of our loosely organized rural community, started enforcing rules that didn't exist. She'd stride onto properties with a clipboard citing violations like unapproved mailboxes or fences that were an inch too tall. My chain-link fence, built to keep Rusty safe, became her obsession. It's an eyesore, she'd snap during her uninvited visits, demanding I replace it with a community-approved wooden one. I ignored her. The fence was on my land and the HOA's reach was questionable at best. Our community wasn't even officially incorporated. But Karen wasn't one to back down. She'd send letters, leave voicemails, and even rallied neighbors to complain about my noncompliance. I tried reasoning with her, explaining that the fence was practical, not decorative, but she'd cut me off with a smirk. Rules are rules, Mr. Harlan. You'll comply or you'll regret it. Her threats felt personal, laced with a venom I couldn't understand. Sarah thought Karen was jealous, made comments about our land, our freedom, our life outside her control. I just wanted her to leave us alone. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I heard Rusty's frantic barking from the back pasture. I grabbed my flashlight and headed out, thinking a coyote had wandered too close. Instead, I found Karen, dressed in her usual pristine blazer, standing inside my gate, a crowbar in her hand. Rusty was cowering near the fence, blood dripping from a gash on his head. My heart pounded as I shouted, "What the hell are you doing?" Karen's eyes were wild, her voice shrill. "This fence is coming down, Jake. You can't ignore me." She swung the crowbar again, this time at Rusty, who yelped and scrambled back. Something snapped in me. I ran toward her, yelling for her to stop, but she turned, crowbar raised, and charged at me. That's when I saw a glint of metal in her other hand, a small pistol tucked into her waistband catching the moonlight. My blood ran cold. I carried a revolver on the ranch, a habit from years of dealing with wildlife threats, and it was holstered at my hip. "Karen, drop it," I shouted, but she kept coming, her face twisted with rage. "You think you're above everyone? You're nothing," she screamed, raising the crowbar higher. Rusty lunged to protect me, and she swung again, catching him in the ribs. His pained howl tore through me. I drew my revolver, my hands shaking, and fired a single shot. Karen stumbled back, clutching her shoulder, the crowbar and pistol clattering to the ground. She collapsed, gasping as I stood frozen, the weight of what I'd done sinking in. The truth unraveled quickly. Sheriff Daniels arrived within minutes, lights flashing across the pasture. Karen was alive but wounded, airlifted to a hospital in Austin. Rusty was rushed to the vet with a fractured skull and broken ribs, but he'd survive. I explained everything: Karen's trespassing, her attack on Rusty, the pistol I saw. The sheriff, a grizzled man who'd seen his share of disputes, nodded grimly. "Sounds like self-defense, Jake, but we'll need to investigate." Mrs. Larson, who'd always kept to herself, came forward the next day. She'd been Karen's friend years ago, before a falling out over, you guessed it, HOA rules. Karen wasn't just strict, Mrs. Larson said, her voice trembling. She was unhinged. She'd talk about punishing people who defied her. I saw her slash tires on a neighbor's truck last year because they parked on the street overnight. Her words painted a picture of a woman spiraling, using her HOA power to control and intimidate. Mrs. Larson's revelation shifted the narrative. Karen wasn't just a nosy busybody, she was dangerous. The sheriff's department found evidence of other complaints against her: harassment, vandalism, even a restraining order filed by another neighbor that had been dismissed for lack of proof. The confrontation that followed wasn't just between me and Karen, it was between a community and the system that let her run unchecked. At the town hall meeting a week later, tempers flared. Some neighbors, loyal to Karen, called me a trigger-happy vigilante. "You could have called the police," one shouted. Others, fed up with her reign, cheered me as a hero. "She broke into his land and beat his dog," another yelled. The sheriff presented the facts. Karen had trespassed, assaulted Rusty, and carried an illegal weapon. My actions, he concluded, fell under Texas's Castle Doctrine, which allowed lethal force to protect life and property. The case was ruled self-defense and no charges were filed. But the community split deeper, with whispers of justice on one side and overreach on the other. Karen, recovering in the hospital, faced charges of her own, trespassing, animal cruelty, and illegal possession of a firearm. Karen's downfall was swift and brutal. Her HOA presidency was revoked and the board dissolved the organization entirely, citing its toxic impact. Karen's reputation, once propped up by her polished demeanor, crumbled as more neighbors shared stories of her intimidation tactics. One man, Tom, admitted she'd threatened to foreclose on his property over unpaid dues, even though he'd paid in full. Another woman, Elena, revealed Karen had spread lies about her family to turn neighbors against them. The woman who'd once held court with her clipboard was now a pariah, shunned by the very community she'd tried to dominate. Her injury kept her out of jail, but her power was gone, her name synonymous with tyranny. In the end, Rusty healed, though his limp reminds me daily of that night. Sarah and I rebuilt the fence, stronger this time, and planted wildflowers along Ida quiet rebellion against Karen's rules. The ranch is peaceful again, but the scars remain, not just on Rusty but in the community's fractured trust. I don't regret pulling the trigger. I protected my family. But I wonder if things could have been different if someone had stopped Karen sooner, if the system hadn't let her wield power like a weapon. The sheriff called it self-defense, but I know it was more than that. It was a stand against someone who thought they could control everything, even at the cost of a life. What do you think? Was I right to fire that shot, or should I have found another way? Share your thoughts. Where do you draw the line between justice and retribution?